radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man. How you doing? Today's Monday, September 14th, 2020. Let's do this, man. $258 days into the new year. Just 108 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? Hope you had a great weekend. We did. We worked. That's right. We worked. I had Coast to Coast on Saturday night. Jacques Vallée and John Greenwald. Worked all day yesterday. Here we are today, Monday, kicking off a new week. And tonight, very special guest, Deep Prasad. Deep Prasad is here, kicking off a Monday night, joining us for a discussion about the study of extraterrestrial intelligence and UFOs with modern physics and science. That is tonight's show. Tomorrow night, right here, big show tomorrow night too as well. Jay Weidner is back. We are going to talk about the life and times of Terence McKenna tomorrow night. It's a very special event. You're not going to want to miss that. Terence McKenna. I would have loved to have hung out with Terence. And here's a spoiler alert. Jay Weidner has. Yeah. So that's tomorrow night, the life and times of Terence McKenna. Wednesday night, looking forward to this. Carolyn Ford is here. We are going to be talking about the power of crystal skulls all night long, and that is Wednesday night. What a great week on Fade to Black. Thursday's another Fader night with open lines all night long. All right, we're working on episodes 4 and 5 of the H Factor. And I'll keep you posted on that when those launch. But stay focused and go and subscribe to our new YouTube channel. Okay, it's called Game Changer Network. It's right there on YouTube. Go and do that. And there you go. So Carolyn Ford will be with us on Wednesday night. Twitter is at JChurchRadio. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. And the sandbox is hashtag F2B. On Twitter, hashtag F, the number 2 and B on Twitter. Hashtag F2BQ is Fade to Black Questions. Everybody that posts there just posts questions except for Mark Tarana, which he does whatever he wants to do, and nobody can control that man. You can email throughout the show. I'll get to as many as I can. Email is Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Speaking of Twitter, at JChurchRadio, I get home from coast to coast on Saturday night. I think it was started Saturday. And my emails, and I woke up Sunday morning eventually. And, after working till, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, about Coast Insider not having the updates. And that's the beauty of following me on Twitter and being able to reach out to me. And I thought, man, that's got to be a mistake. It almost sounds like censorship. I mean, I know it was a great show and it was fun, but am I being censored? Are the Coast Insiders being censored? So I gave it a day, and I woke, and it was still going on this morning. And I'm watching Twitter and Facebook and my email. Like, what the heck is going on? Got it fixed today. It turned out to be just a technical snafu. It wasn't anything. It wasn't a big deal. But I'm just like you guys. Something like that happens, you immediately go conspiracy. I did. I did, and I'm a host at Coast to Coast, and I went conspiracy. You gotta love that. But that's why you need to follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio and use that hashtag F2B, because that's the quickest way to get to me, and it worked. All right. Yeah, I'm wondering if I hadn't have said anything, I'm wondering how long that would have gone on for. Because they move on to the next Coast show. The next thing you know, it's 3-4 days old. I'm not so sure, but they got it fixed. All right. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Lots of breaking news today, man. Crazy stuff going on. I'm going to start over in Japan, because today, Japan's defense minister, Taro Kono, ordered the self-defense forces of Japan to follow standing orders for dealing with unidentified aerial objects that could pose a threat to Japan's security. In a statement, Kono asked the SDF members to record and photograph any such objects that they encounter or that enter Japanese airspace, and to take steps for necessary analysis of the sightings, including information provided separately by the public. Very interesting. Now, while the Defense Ministry says there have been no known cases of the SDF encountering UFOs, the latest move comes after the United States Defense Department established a special unidentified aerial phenomena task force last month. I like their use of words, unidentified aerial objects. So that's UAO. Do we have a new one? Not UFO, UAO. Not UAP, but UAO. UAO. Unidentified aerial objects. I kind of like that. Yeah, kind of like that. All right, the other big announcement today, and it's a big one. A team of researchers has apparently discovered phosphine gas on the clouds of Venus. According to space scientists, phosphine might be most probably of biotic origin. What? And it clearly indicates that alien life, at least in its microbial form, could be thriving on Venus. Wow. At today's press conference, Professor Jane Greaves revealed that microorganisms could be living in the hostile atmosphere of Venus. According to Greaves, phosphine is usually detected where microbes are surviving without the presence of oxygen. During her briefing, the scientist also called Venus a living habitat, air quotes. However, researchers revealed that they are not claiming the presence of alien life on Venus, but are only talking about the discovery of phosphine gas, which remains a mystery to them, as it is of biological origin. Check this. Normally, phosphine is the sign of biological degradation of biomass and the decay of biological matter. That's crazy stuff. It's big news. Living in the clouds. It's angels. I'm going on the record. It's angels. Angels. Wings flapping. Angels in the clouds. Halos. I'm just saying. All right. The other big news. Man, lots of big news today. This is big news. The perfectly preserved remains of an Ice Age cave bear have been discovered in the Russian Arctic, the first example of the species ever to be found with soft tissues intact. Wow. The astonishing find was made by reindeer herders on the Lyakovsky Islands, which is part of the New Siberian Islands in Russia's far north. Prior to this, only the bones of cave bears have been unearthed. Only the bones. But this specimen even had its nose intact. A whole bear carcass with soft tissues and all internal organs in place. Holy crap. That's a find. Big news day, right? Well, it's followed up with this to make it even bigger, and here's the icing on the cake. My DVD of the movie Communion is actually scheduled for delivery tomorrow. I'll keep everyone posted, and if it arrives before the show, you'll see it on the bunker cam. That's right. Looking forward to that. There are a few people. Madeline ordered one. I got email. Oh, man. You know, this Communion DVD, look, it's not streaming. Forget about that. You're not going to stream it unless you're going to watch a bootleg version of it on YouTube. But it's not streaming on any of the services. I'm shocked to get this. And it says widescreen, which, man, if it's 3x4, whatever, 4x3, I'm going to be upset. But it says widescreen. Okay, so I'm excited. If it actually gets here, wow. But how much email can one person get over a DVD? Oh, yeah, I appreciate it. I really do. And so let's see, how many of you ordered it? A number of you did. Madeline said hers was going to come today. She was going to post a picture of it in Twitter. And I got that email. I don't see. Oh, hold on. Here it is. Just came in 6 minutes ago from Madeline. The Communion has arrived. Ordered on Fader night, arrived today. I hope there it is playing in the background. Fantastic stuff, Madeline. Okay, so we ordered them on the same day, and you obviously live one day closer to the distribution center for Amazon. But there it is playing in the background. Look at that. All right, excited. I'm going to be watching that tomorrow. All right, let's get this show cracking. Lots to talk about tonight. Happy birthday to today, Sam Neill. Sam Neill today is 73. Jurassic Park, Dead Calm. Wasn't he in one of those movies like, was he in The Abyss or Sphere or one of those undersea alien? Wasn't he in one of those too as well? He was great in Dead Calm. My Sam Neill Jurassic Park is Jurassic Park 3. There were some scenes in Jurassic Park 3. Remember when they were in the bird part of the island and they had to go down that tunnel, the bird cage? That was good stuff. Sam Neill today, 73. Aha. That's right. Aha. Frontman Morton Harkett today is 61 years old, singer of one of the biggest songs in the history of music, Take On Me. And also today, OG Fader Not, the Elf, is 29 years old. Now, I want to show this to everybody. This arrived today, and it's Elf's birthday, and I get a gift from him, which is strange timing. But I got this. A hat rack. Look at this. Yeah, and it's exactly what you think it is. It is handmade, wood, burned, stained. Absolutely incredible piece of work. And I've been sent a lot of stuff in my day for the bunker. But this is absolutely incredible. Elf, thank you so much. And it's going to have its own prized place here in the bunker. And there's a old nail there. It's just absolutely incredible. So there you go. Thank you, Elf. And there's the close-up of it. Look at that. Absolutely fantastic. That's special right there. Thank you, Elf, and happy birthday, man. 29 years old. All right. Where am I at? Our dead guy's birthday today is Steve Gaines, 1949 to 1977, died at the age of 28, and Ed King, 1949 to 2018, died at the age of 68. Both Ed and Steve were the guitarists for Lynyrd Skynyrd. It was King that wrote Sweet Home Alabama, wrote or co-wrote Poison Whiskey, Saturday Night Special, and Whiskey Rockarola. King left the band in 1975, mid-1975, and was replaced by Steve Gaines in 1976, a few months later. Steve died in the plane crash in 1977, just over a year after joining Lynyrd Skynyrd. Gaines played on just one album, Street Survivors, that was released just 3 days before the plane crash on October 20th, 1977. How strange, right? Ironic, strange that they both have the same birthdays. Absolutely crazy. And happy birthday to both of you, Steve and Ed. Wow. Incredible. All right. On this day in history, OTD, 1959. It went down. A Soviet rocket crashes into the moon's surface, becoming the first man-made object sent from the Earth to reach the lunar surface, and it carried the Soviet flag. Yep, they got there first, planted the flag first, well, crashed the flag. The United States quickly responded with, that don't count. That don't count. You got to plant. You got to plant, unfurl. You got to plant the flag. Fader fact. All right. Man, I love doing these. You ready? Fader fact. If you live in Utah, I want you to confirm this for me. I want you to go on a road trip and confirm this fader fact. Are you ready? The owner and only resident of the ghost town Lucin, Utah, that's Lucin, Lucin, Utah, is Ivo Zdarsky, who, at the age of 24, he was the kid that flew over the Iron Curtain in 1984 using his homemade glider powered with a 600cc Trabant engine and landed undetected at Vienna International Airport and escaped to the west. And he went all the way west to Utah. Now he hangs out in this ghost town, right? He owns it. He bought it. And he builds these crazy planes and test flies them there and sometimes throws a party or two. How crazy is that? That is your fader fact. Tonight, Deep Prasad joins us for a discussion about the study of ET and UFOs with modern physics and science. Tomorrow night, Jay Widener is here for the life of Terrence McKenna. Wednesday night, Carolyn Ford and Crystal Skulls. Thursday night, another fader night with open lines all night long. It's a perfect week here on Fade to Black. Wow. All right. Now, time for me to hit this River Moon coffee. You better be drinking yours. You're going to need it after after you hear what I have to say. All right. Happy birthday, Elf. So Elf is, I guess Elf's birthday is frozen Oreo cookies and milk. And do you still light a candle, though, with that? You could probably get the Oreo cookie wet enough, right? If you dunk, you could probably get a birthday candle in there. Light that sucker up. All right. River Moon Coffee, rivermooncoffee.com. Hashtag promo code F2B blend gets you 50% off of your order today. All right, let me hit this. Man, good coffee. Got coffee. Went down the wrong pipe. All right, here we go. I have been sounding the alarm about fake news, social media, and its effects on the world for over 5 years. When I first started to speak out about it, it wasn't from heavy research. It wasn't from interviews with specialists or reporting that was going on about it in the media. Oh, no. I saw the signs first. In fact, it was the exact opposite. Everything I spoke about was based on my own experiences, and that's what you want to know. What I was seeing and reading in real time. Myself, like others my own age, many others my own age, have a very unique perspective on the changes we are seeing today. Because I grew up before the internet age. Stay with me. I was just 30 years old when the world started to change. And that is an age, 30 years old. More on that in just a minute. Stay right there. That is an age where you are both an adult and you think that you are aware and you think that you understand the world around you. And now you understand the future. That's what 30 years old is. It's not 21, it's not 15, and it's not 50. 30 is unique. Really is. Start to get your feet on the ground for real. But then, and that was 1990, 91, 92, 93. The next 15 years after that would be the most insane period in human history. That's right. And here is the really crazy part. Right now on this planet, we have 30-year-olds right now, same age as I was then, 30-year-olds today who have experienced nothing but the internet age. They have nothing to compare to. This is their life. They know nothing else. This is a very, very scary situation. Take a time right now to absorb these words. Because today, we are at the tipping point. We are at the point of no return. The significance of this cannot be measured. It's as simple as this. The generation born after 1990, just 30 short years ago, lives their life today on social media and the internet. Their entire world is based on likes, subs, videos, and comments, both theirs and others. Their friends, their family. It's their news, it's their entertainment, it's the comments and lives of celebrities, everything. Right here. It's a world completely tailored for them. Their social media persona is custom made. Their news and YouTube feed is unique to them. Their world is singular and nobody else has it. They believe the real world is the one that is created for them by, wait for it, algorithms. Code. Yeah. Code with no regulations. Code with no laws. Code with no oversight. Today, when we see protests in the streets, young content creators live streaming in anger, former friends battling it out on a Facebook thread, All of this is created by social media, and it's total control of the minds of an entire generation. And they don't know any different. This is how the world is to them. And remember, it's the one we created for them. When you see someone on Facebook complaining, angry, and outright hostile over the left, over the right, over religion, schools, coronavirus, or virtually anything, it could be knitting and crocheting. You need to remember that they are getting a world fed to them in their newsfeed that is totally different than yours. You've heard it so many times before. It's like, dude, did you hear about blah, blah, blah? And your answer is no, I didn't hear that. Because you haven't. You know nothing about it. Your friend doesn't understand that you don't know because their entire news feed is filled with nothing but XYZ. Your feed is the exact opposite. You're getting ABC. You have a completely different view of the world. In fact, everyone has their own planet Earth. And this is the problem. In my opinion, and I've stated this many times in the past, Google, all of social media, and the internet in general should have been left alone. Once Facebook, YouTube, and Google started to use targeted advertising to chase down bigger profits, things changed. The automated algorithms altered the landscape. And most of this code is actually quite simple and runs all by itself 24/7, laser focused at each individual user of the internet, without food, without rest, nonstop. Originally spawned for advertising dollars, but today it's the creator of worlds. So, when you wonder why nobody understands you and you think that everyone else but you is trying to destroy the world for no reason because they are crazy, well, just think about your news feed. Because they are thinking the same thing about you. It's not them. It's not you. It's an algorithm messing with your heads. Now, although I've been thinking, writing, and speaking about this for a very long time, and we've even covered it recently on The H Factor, there's a new documentary out right now that spells it out all for you. It's called The Social Dilemma. This documentary drama hybrid explores the dangerous human impact of social networking with the tech experts from Facebook, Google, Apple, Twitter, YouTube, and others warning you about the things that they have created. The Social Dilemma is currently streaming on Netflix, and I don't know how you're going to react to this film, but I can assure you of this. You'll think twice about checking your newsfeed every 5 minutes of your day. I guarantee it. Seriously. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Deep Prasad joins us for a discussion about the study of ET and UFOs with modern physics and science. Tomorrow night, Jay Widener is here. That's right. Wednesday night, Carolyn Ford, Crystal Skulls. Thursday night is Fader night. You can follow me on Twitter right now at JChurchRadio on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I'll be right back after this short break with our guest, Deep Prasad. Stay with me.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com. Go Beckley Teppy.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What a great week on Fade to Black this week. Tonight, Deep Prasad, of course, is here. Tomorrow night, Jay Widener, The Life and Times of Terrence McKenna. Wednesday night, Carolyn Ford. Man, Crystal Skulls. What a great week. And then Thursday night, of course, is Fader night with open lines all night long. Tonight, it's all about Deep. Deep Prasad, the CEO of ReactiveQ. He's one of the great young minds in science and also offers a professional perspective on the UFO field. That's right. Tonight we're going to discuss UFO research and how to apply modern science and physics to the known and unknown data. That's my favorite subject. Deep and his company are aiming to create the world's first quantum computer, as well as work on producing superconductors and metamaterials. Prasad is also an avid UFO advocate, and tonight we're going to discuss all of it. We're going to go ET, UFO research, and study groups. Part of ReactiveQ's mission statement is that they are actively engaged with engineers to validate the solution. What does that mean? ReactiveQ.io is the website, and the links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. I'd like to welcome back to Fade to Black, the one and only Deep Prasad. Deep, good evening, man. How are you?
Really good, Jimmy. Thanks for asking. You know, it's been a very productive day. And any day that's a productive day is a good day. And any day that we're alive and talking to each other, acknowledging our existence is an even better day. So, that being said, I've been really elated about the news that was published today that many of us, kind of saw coming, on UFO Twitter regarding the Venus announcement and the phosphine. So, I was reading through some of the papers, starting from, of course, the paper that they made accessible today, as well as some of the papers that the lead scientist had published as part of their PhD thesis. It's interesting. All of their stuff comes together. These individuals, the scientists involved, have been working on this, study of phosphine in the atmosphere of Venus for several years, right? And I think the beautiful thing that we're seeing here is a very clear-cut analogy to how disclosure at the scientific scale is going to look like, where, we have this sort of twilight zone, right, of people who are saying, there's this plausible deniability at the moment regarding the results, where people can believe that it is either due to an unknown chemistry process that we have not understood or discovered yet, or it is a biosignature of extraterrestrial life. And in either case, we have almost like a tiebreaker that we need. And that tiebreaker is gathering the actual physical scientific evidence, the actual, microbes in a petri dish. That is the last step that's remaining. So with disclosure, we're kind of there too. With UAPs, we're one sort of amazing scientific international study away from proving that UAPs are scientifically real and not a terrestrial or any at least known source. And then we're going to have to do the same thing too, as the guys who want to go to Venus when it comes to proving aliens. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And
awesome.
I'm going with I like the new UAO. We went UFO to UAP and now UAO. I'm digging UAO, which is unidentified aerial object.
Got it. I thought you were going to say organism because of the Venus thing, but
yeah, right. Now, okay, now check this out. I love the word irony for a lot of different reasons, but you can apply it all over the place. And this is exciting news today from Venus for a lot of reasons, but sure. I'm going to get to the irony part in a second. But here we have the possibility of life on Mars is probably there right now. It's not that hostile of an environment, right? Yep. Now we have Venus, and Venus, by all accounts, just a billion years ago, was like Hawaii, right? Lush planet, great, things were going on. And we kind of always knew that about Venus. But the thing is this. It's 800 degrees on the surface now. You land, you melt, no matter what it is. But the thing is, here we have in our own solar system, when we're questioning, life out there in the galaxy, in the Milky Way or throughout the universe, that the two closest planets to us, life, right? And that's what I think is great news. But let me get to the irony part.
Sure.
Phosphine, you know what it really is?
You mean like the chemical composition, like in terms of the fact that it's phosphorus and 3 like hydrogen atoms, or
okay, this is where you got to take your geek hat off.
Sure.
Okay, phosphine is swamp gas.
Oh yeah, that's hilarious.
Isn't that hilarious? I mean, that is
super synchronistic. I agree, almost at a fishy level. I am wondering about that. That is strange.
that is the trippiest of all. And now that I've let everybody know really what we're talking about here, whenever we talk about Venus or phosphine in the future, we're all going to snicker just a little bit, because of the irony there of this discovery. But very exciting day, no doubt about it. And of course, the news out of Japan. Looks like they've got a new directorate to the Japanese Defense Forces, and that they are going to be reporting any UAOs, unidentified aerial objects. And they are going to include in the reports and the research and the investigation, civilian reports from the public. Now that's pretty interesting. That is actually great news. So that's the way that I look at it. And before we get started, Deep, today with all of this exciting news and you doing your thing and you got a company to run and stuff.
Yes, sir.
Did you today read or write math?
Yes.
You did. Did you do an algorithm today? What did you do?
So, so one of the things that I'm doing is just building my own custom simulator. It's not like an industry grade thing, or it's going to replace anybody's simulator. Basically, what I made was I do a lot of like homework quantum calculations when it comes to like 1 qubit and 2 qubit gate operations, right? And so 1 qubit, 2 qubit gate operations are mathematically matrices that you apply and multiply to a vector. That vector represents your quantum state, and your quantum state represents your qubits. And so there's a certain number kinds of gates that you'll apply again and again and again. And for certain kinds of problems, let's say you're doing material science problems, there may be certain kinds of things that you want to do again and again, right? So, so I'm always building, on this little personal simulator. So that's what I did. One of the things I did today was just double check my math so I could transfer it, onto code. And then now, like, I had this little unique calculator for my research. Just
okay, that was my next question. Okay, are you whiteboarding this, or are you using a calculator in a computer?
So these days, when I had access to an office space, I could whiteboard, and I have a small little whiteboard, two now at home. But yeah, I actually just my place is trying to look more like a math science lab day by day, like thanks to COVID. I have tons of copies, like notebooks that I fill out, literally hundreds, probably thousands of pages at this point, man. Like, over the past 2, 3, 4 years. So yeah.
Right now, Sean Carroll started a new web series, and I think it's called, Sean Carroll, the physicist here at Caltech. I think it's called The World's Biggest Problem. Or Problems. I think that's what it's something similar to that. Okay. Anyway, So he whiteboards. So he'll take a physics issue, a quantum physics issue, and start with the statement, and then the question. Right, the journey is laid out there. He does a visual description, and then he starts, man. He starts upper left-hand corner, and he's whiteboarding out all of the math and gets to the end by the end of the video, which is, hour and a half long. And it's fascinating to see the process of working through the equations. I'm not quite a physicist, but I'm feeling smarter. It's pretty cool.
Awesome. And the right ones do literally make you smarter when you listen to them. So.
Well, see, there's an art form. If we go back, to like Feynman and others, John Wheeler, that were really, really good. Kip Thorne's really good at this too, and so many others. Anyway, we don't need to go down the list, but physics and quantum physics needs, it's supported by the math, of course, but it needs a storyteller. It needs an orator. You need to be able to get the symbols, the equations, into a visual sense so people understand what the heck you're talking about. And that's what was so great about Feynman, right? He could lay this out in a way that everybody could understand, and then go back to the chalkboard and the whiteboard and look at the equations. But unless you have a good storyteller, a good physicist that can tell you what he's thinking and what his journey is going to encompass, it's meaningless to the public, isn't it?
That is very true. And it's going to be true with our relationship with the robots that we build as well. So one of the, problems that I run into with my own research is the sort of self-accepting or admittance that the kind of data, the kind of simulations that we're going to be producing, related to our systems as these quantum computers get bigger, related to, let's say, materials, potential new materials to be tested out in the real world, it's going to surpass the amount of just like brain power, raw brain power that we would have to process that data naturally. So we're going to have to look to AI agents to sort through, all this sort of simulation and engineering data that we're getting out of our computers. And it's going to be very interesting, right? Where we have to hope. I'll give you an example. Like if that sounds too abstract, let's say that Elon wants to make. Let's say like he's been egged on enough, right? About the whole UAP situation, the Tic Tacs, and he's like, all right, let's figure out how quickly can we pivot from the kind of technology that we're building right now for SpaceX to Tic Tac level technology. If you were to black box that problem, what you could do, let's say at a very naive method, could be just trying to match the velocity and the acceleration that the Tic Tac was able to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Tic Tac, right? It was able to do, at least officially, roughly Mach 31. And for context, something that always blows my mind is when we compare it to the International Space Station, which I believe travels at Mach 25. So Elon could try to match that, and as well as the 1,000 G forces plus. Now, in order to get there, one might argue that it's, of course, a theoretical physics problem, right? Of course, it's an engineering problem and science problem. And one half of the equation is going to be the kinds of materials, at least one half of it is the materials required to build such a craft, right? How do they function together? What is so magical about the skin and the interior that allows for them to, to manipulate space-time potentially, right? Or how is that being done? And so when you look at that problem, imagine if Elon decided, okay, well, I don't want to wait until 200 or 300 years to see that technology in my lifetime. I want to do it now. Well, what you could do is if you had a very powerful computer that had both classical computing capabilities and quantum computing capabilities, that computer would be able to sort through quantum data and make sense of quantum data. And now that's really important because every material in the end of the day, every superconductor, right, everything that may have anti-gravitic properties, should they exist, will have a what you can think of as a genome, right, like a fingerprint, a clear description using purely quantum mechanics, and a treatment of quantum mechanics. Sorry, so. That's the magic. It's one of the things that Richard Feynman, by the way, I'm sure you know this, but for the audience, Richard Feynman is technically the father of quantum computing. He's the guy who suggested why we would even need one in the first place, and describe what it would be and what it would do. And the whole point was he's very famous for saying this quote, and he says that nature is quantum mechanical, damn it. So in order to simulate it, you need a computer or a system that is quantum mechanical in nature. So that's what we're dealing with here. If you want to bypass the sort of dumb trial and error way of doing science that we've been doing for the past hundreds, thousands of years, you train your own AI, right, that can run on a quantum computer to figure out how to find those materials instead for you. But then at that point, there's that knowledge gap, right? So that's why I bring that up, because right now we have these knowledge gaps between, let's say, like genius theoretical physicists like Feynman and everybody else. But even that gap can somewhat be kind of overcome through communication, through being a good communicator. I don't know if we've figured that out yet with our machines. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And there is another aspect to this, one that we are going. It's a great segue that we're going to be discussing a lot tonight. In that, when you bring up physics and especially the quantum side of it, mechanics and theory, this is stuff that, in a general sense, we can't see. Okay, that's it. We can't see it. We know it's there, we know it exists, and we can plug in the numbers. But that's what you do, theoretical, right? And you're trying to measure, you're trying to observe, and then you're trying to get the results. That's it in a nutshell. And physics, as crazy and as complicated as it is, you're always going to start with the basics, just like you said. You're going to have something is going to move, something's going to have mass, and something's going to have speed. You're going to have a point A, you're going to have a point B. If you have all of those numbers, then you start plugging them in, and then you can start to work your way forward. And as complex as it is, if you know those general things about physics, you can, if you want to just apply yourself, you can follow your way through the method to get to the end results. That's why Elon would be able to do what he's going to do, which is also that application deep of the unknown and trying to turn it into the known is the same thing when you're studying UFOs. Right? Is it the same methodology where we have all these great unknowns? We have some knowns, right? We have photographs and videos. We have speed. We have color. We have time. We have distances. We have location. We have a lot of data that we can plug in.
We absolutely do.
But we have data that we can't plug in that we have to figure out, right? So are the same two, I know it sounds crazy, but are the two fields actually closer to being related than we think?
Yes, I certainly think so, and in more ways than one, right? So one abstract way that the two fields are very deeply related, I think, is that if we are dealing with, here's two things. So if we're dealing with, let's deal with the ETH, right? The extraterrestrial hypothesis for a second, where we have, these physical, biological life forms from other planets. If they can get here, then at the very least, their material science and their engineering is more advanced than ours. And if that is the case, then they would absolutely have a better understanding of quantum mechanics and general relativity. And we don't know, how they would perceive physics. There's also something about structural realism, which we'll talk about later, but it's totally worth getting into. And it's relevant to the ET, and just like aliens in general, the idea of non-human life. But anyways, so those guys would have the ability, and they would know more physical emergent properties of matter than we do. And so again, like calculating that or finding that is a quantum physics phenomena or a quantum physics problem. So there's a world right there or a scenario where the intersection of quantum physics intersects UAPs directly, where we are looking at, all right, can our models of physics describe what we're seeing? And if not, what is the difference? And is the difference, a subtle difference, right? Is it because we're observing materials that we can discover using existing tools, right? Using our existing quantum computers?
Right.
Or is it materials that just simply cannot be discovered using quantum mechanics-based tools, and is something even deeper and more advanced and something that we haven't conceptualized yet? You can never rule that out. I don't think that's the case, though. I think, I think any species that we can actually physically observe that has mass, that isn't, of course, tricking us, right? Assuming that this isn't the trickster,
right,
or
right.
some super intelligence just messing with us, then those guys are probably not too much far beyond, quantum mechanics as we know it, right? Their idea of atomic physics would definitely be a lot more advanced, but I don't think it would be so advanced that like they would be considered multidimensional or have those capabilities, for example. And that's because, they have to move around physically. And so
if you stay inside of ETH.
Sure.
Right. That's you have to stay inside of ETH for that to apply. Let me ask you this. We've got 2 minutes to the break.
Sure.
What we have, how do I say this right? Our version of the laws of physics that apply here on Earth, because that is based around gravity here on Earth and other things. There's a lot of elements to it, but our laws of physics as they apply to us, do they apply in Zeta Reticuli? Do they apply in Andromeda, another galaxy that is 2 million light years away? Same laws of physics, or would they be different?
So as far as we've observed, they all follow the same laws of physics, right? At least in the observable, what's called the Hubble volume, right? Everything what we can observe and measure through the Hubble telescope has followed the kinds of physics and has broken the kinds of physics that we thought we knew in the same kinds of ways, the same consistent ways. But it's still totally open-ended as far as we know. It's a very open-ended question in physics, right? Is the laws of the universe, right, laws of physics uniform right outside of the Hubble volume, right? What if right outside of what we can observe and measure, like let's say 1 billion light years outside of that, past that point, gravity is upside down, right? Like everything
That's
goes.
what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. Well, in another, if there's the multiverse aspect of this, and in another universe, they could have a completely different volume of laws.
That's right. Exactly. So like in a different world, anything that, yeah, exactly. That opens up. So it's where Sean Carroll's work really comes in, right? We can talk about this, after the break as well. But, the multiverse interpretation and all the different interpretation of quantum mechanics plays a role too. But we'll talk about structural realism as well, because now that you mentioned it, right, that's the next question that we need to be answering is basically whether, because it affects how we can communicate with other intelligences, how much we can convey, how much information. But basically, structural realism looks at the belief of whether the math of a physics equation actually represents what's happening underneath, like whether it represents true reality or base reality, or whether it's just a good description, a good approximation, right? A lot of people believe mathematics is just something we invented. It's not something you discover, a facet of the universe. But if it is something you discover, a facet of the universe, something objectively you'll keep coming across again and again, then theoretically there are ways of having a universal language that is mathematically based. We can talk about this. Or at least convey just mathematical truths universally to other species. That's super cool, right? Using something called category theory.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's cover that when we come back after the break. Our guest tonight, Deep Prasad. We are going to tonight cover UFO research and how to apply modern science and physics to the known and unknown data. It don't get no much better than that. And that's my broken English because I'm a doofus and Deep isn't. We'll be right back.
You're too nice, man.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. Kicking off this week, tonight, Deep Prasad is here. Tomorrow night, Jay Widener. Wednesday night, Carolyn Ford. Thursday night, Fader night. Open lines all night long. Tonight, Deep Prasad, we are discussing how to apply modern science and physics to all of the known and unknown data when it comes to investigating and researching extraterrestrial intelligence, UFOs, UAPs, now UAOs. Now, Deep, we're going to get to structural realism here in a second. But I want to actually respond, and I know that you're hanging out on Twitter. You can see what's going on. Kim just posted this question, and I think it's an excellent one. She says, can you give us a layperson's version of Sean Carroll's multiverse theory? And even I think even Sean struggles with it at times because it gets way out there. And it's hard for people to accept what the physics is suggesting here. But let's take a crack at it. I really enjoy this subject. What is the multiverse?
Sure. So, first of all, I love that question. It all stems from, we have to go all the way back to the early 1900s, when quantum mechanics was being sort of formed and discovered by the fathers, right? Werner Heisenberg, Bohr, Einstein, Erwin Schrödinger, Paul Dirac, and many other people. And one of the things that they agreed on was mathematical structure, right? And that's why quantum mechanics is successful, because it actually makes successful predictions, very empirically successful predictions based on hardcore math. But what was very sort of subjective was the interpretation of what that math said about the underlying nature of reality itself. And so that's where the multiverse comes in, and the whole idea of the multiverse interpretation and hypothesis, and the many worlds interpretation, all that stuff. It all stems from the idea of the wave function. And so basically in quantum mechanics, when we want to describe the state of a system, right, a quantum state, mathematically what people will say is, oh, that's a ray in the complex Hilbert space, right? It's a 2 to the n dimensional, in the 2 to the n dimensional Hilbert space. But physically, though, right, the crazy part is that we can only describe whatever it is that we can measure, but we can't describe with any kind of math exactly what is happening when a quantum state is in a superposition. So when you have a wave function, right, that describes a true quantum state, right, something that is in a superposition, that is a very fascinating problem, because in the end of the day, what we're saying is that all measurements related to quantum system, all measurables and observables are defined by the wave function, right? The wave function defines the probability amplitudes. So basically, what we know for a fact is the probability of measuring something for a given measurable encoded by the wave function, but we can never know for sure what outcome we will get, right? So what happened is this argument ensued about the nature of the collapse of the wave function, right? So what we all agree on is the measurables, but some people will say that the wave function, which and we'll describe, think of it. I don't want to describe it in such a way that people get the wrong visual picture. It's very important to have the right visual picture when it comes to this stuff. So when I say wave function, I think that what we should really do is go back to the whole double slit experiment. It's really commonly used for a reason, and that's because that's sort of the most comprehensive experiment that you can do, that sort of encompasses all the weirdness of quantum mechanics, including the fact that the wave function even exists in the first place. Mm-hmm. Typically, the whole point with that double slit experiment is that when you fire just a single particle let's say, electron, it should just stay as one single particle and go through just one single slit. Yet for some reason, when you're not making a measurement on the system, you're not measuring which slit the electron went through, it behaves as if it was a wave that collided with itself. That's where the whole and so the reason why that is, we can only infer from the math, right? Like we know the how, we don't know the why. So the fact that it ends up as a wave now, by the way, right? That wave pattern is no surprise, because now we know that, oh, okay, you can describe that using the wave function, aka you can describe that by using complex analysis and category theory to describe that. But again, the actual behavior of why it is that the particle ends up being measured at the end as if it behaved as a wave, that's up for debate. So now enter Sean Carroll. Sean Carroll says that here's why the particle acts as if it became a wave version of itself and collided with itself. Because mathematically, it's very intuitive. It sounds simple, but it's very interesting. But he's basically saying because the math describes a particle, moving and having had to behave like a wave and colliding with itself, right? Basically saying that the wave function is real. Like he's saying that each branch, each possibility that the wave function describes is a physical reality, right? And we all just live on different branches. So he's basically saying that the simplest way of interpreting this wave-like behavior is simply by assuming that we literally live, in this reality. Let's call it a multiverse, where there's this one sort of wave function that rules them all, and we all, whatever we make a measurement, all we're doing is just tapping into that wave function. We're only making one. We're just one instantiation of this wave function, where we're making that measurement, right? And so that's the crazy part, because in classical physics, in the day-to-day world, in the non-quantum world, objects only behave with definitive characteristics. They have what I would describe a definite eigenstate, right? I would describe them using so basically, I only have one pair of headphones. It's not like I can't tell you exactly where it is, right? Or exactly, let's say, how fast it's going. So we have this sort of a privilege in the classical world, where we expect objects to behave with definitive attributes and qualities, whereas in quantum mechanics, you don't have that. So again, Sean Carroll is trying to describe and explain part of that, right? And so it all goes back to the very fact that it's very simple, right? An object, when fired, let's say at a wall, right? If I throw a ball at a wall and it bounces back, it can only bounce back with the same amount, with the conservative amount of force that I put and threw at the wall, right? And the conservation of momentum and conservation of energy applies. At most, the ball cannot come back at me with more power and speed than I put into it when I threw it at the wall. And so these are all classical physics intuitions. But what's happening in the quantum mechanics world, right, is you're essentially throwing that ball at the wall, and it's no longer going in the direction you expected. It's almost following this wave-like pattern when you're not measuring it. That's just so freaking weird, right? So basically, Sean is saying that yes, we kind of live in this wave function. Does that make sense? And we can keep going deeper, but
and to take it one step further, and especially for clarity, is
Sure.
that what Sean is saying is that you have to, if you accept the math the way it is now, that every possibility exists and happens. Our world here, where we are, is one instance of something happening. but every other possibility of your decision, your action, whatever it may be, also happens somewhere else, to the infinite. And that is the part that most people can't wrap their head around. And it's the classical thing. There is, I've heard Sean say it, and Brian Greene and others say that, well, in this world today I had a ham sandwich. In the next world I didn't, right? I had one with cheese. And,
right.
And that's the part of the fantastical, right? The science fictional side of it, that where people just kind of stop and go, wait a minute. Now you're asking a bit too much of us to believe and to understand what you are suggesting.
Right. Well, it's hard because, as somebody who literally does quantum computing research all day long, like for a living, I am constantly wondering, where the hell is all this quantum information stored, right? Like, how does nature do the bookkeeping? Like, we exploit it. We know how to mathematically do some very amazing things, but where is that, right? And so, like, that's like, I think, like Sean, in the sense that you have to almost accept that there are other worlds out there when you start thinking about these things. So there's an intuitive way, basically, is what I'm trying to get at, that you can come to these conclusions from an information science perspective purely about the multiverse.
Now, let's get back to the structural realism definition. What is it?
Gladly. So structural realism looks at whether or not the nature of reality is actually inherently the way that math describes it, right? So is there basically a deeper sort of nature to reality that math can't capture? And so structural realists will say that that's not the case. And so...
Oh, hold on. We got to clean that up a little bit.
Sure.
We got to clean that up. Let's start over. Okay. Structural realism. Let's see if we can get it down to more real. Talk to me like I'm 5 years old.
Sure. Okay. Sure. So that's an interesting challenge for this, but of course, absolutely. So, okay, let's try this again. With structural realism, and let's assume you're a 5-year-old, we'll make it even harder. A 5-year-old who has done no mathematics whatsoever. You just have like an intuitive idea of it. Basically, structural realism in your case will say okay, so I don't know if you know this, but when you jump from a high distance, like, have you ever jumped from, let's say, a height of 4 feet or any distance? Notice how your knees bend. Like, have you ever noticed that? Like,
yes.
They just kind of bend and reduce. Okay, so that's really cool, because what's really happening there is a very simple calculation for power is energy over time. So the smaller amount of time you concentrate a higher amount of energy, the greater amount of power you have. And so when humans are falling from a high, bit of ground, when they land really hard, they're immediately bending their knees to increase the time. So increase the denominator and reduce the power. So aka reduce the amount of force that's felt on their body, right? All in one go. So our bodies naturally do that kind of thing without knowing this physics calculation of P equals E over T. So that is a scenario where, let's say, a 5-year-old will probably know that math internally too, right? Where the brain, and so structural realism for 5-year-old is this. Did your brain learn to do that, to bend your knees, because there is a mathematical equation, some kind of symbols that the universe follows, right, to the T? Or is it something that it just kind of understands to mimic and emulate, and that there is no truly a real pattern there. We can only sort of closely understand it, and our brains and bodies are just doing that, just kind of guessing at it. Now, I wouldn't tell the 5-year-old what I mean by that is a mathematical approximation that is not structural realism. So you see what I'm saying? But structural realism would say, structural realism would say to the 5-year-old that a structural realist will say that the brain led you to bend your knees because it understood and learned the true nature of reality. It actually understood the true structure of the universe mathematically, because math is the true representation of the structure of the universe.
So how would this apply with the study of ET technology and UFOs?
So this applies in the form that, when we're looking at other UAPs that, let's say, are coming from another world, what we are going to be asking is whether structural realism is the right way to go about the world, right? Is the best way to look at the world, where we kind of just look at the form and the structure, right? And we kind of say, we take a hard stance. We decide that we say nothing about the underlying nature of the universe, or we say that math is truly something that is sort of objective. I say this, and it matters because if we're dealing with objects from a different part of the universe, who's to say that math is not as useful in that part of the universe, right? It sounds weird, but what if it's less useful of an approximation?
It doesn't sound weird to me at all.
Got it.
It does not. No, let me tell you why it doesn't sound weird.
Yeah.
And to anybody out there that wants to be critical or suggest otherwise.
Yeah.
Brian Greene, I'm going to paraphrase here.
Sure.
But Brian Greene said this about ET arriving on planet Earth. He said, so they get here and we want to show them everything that we know. And we're whipping out our science and our physics and our math and our calculations and the nuclear age and what we know. And they're going to look back at us and go, you know what? We did that math thing a long time ago. It's something that doesn't apply to us now. And he said it could be just that. We think that math is universal, that math is going to be the great communicator across the universe. But we don't know that.
Exactly.
I think that's a fascinating point that you just made. Brian Greene virtually said the exact same thing. We can't jump to those kinds of conclusions.
Yeah, no, we can't. It makes our tasks harder as, people who are, let's say, researching UFOs, right? Like, how do you even begin to understand life that may not have been subject to the same kinds of physics or even the same relationship with mathematics as we do, right? Like, what does that even mean right now from a psychology perspective? What does that imply to the way that something might think about life and experience life? It just changes so many things.
Now, so to simplify things, if it could be, and we need to continue applying the math to this, but it could be something as simple as, if we have a craft, that there may not be any buttons or switches or screens or even a visual, tangible propulsion system. The same materials may be used, right? The same metals, the same physical things may be there, but their understanding of going from point A to point B has been simplified and refined to the point where they don't need those things on their craft. And that is the great unknown. It's much more simpler for them, and we don't understand that, right?
Exactly. That's a very real possibility. There's a world where, we might have, it's very interesting. Like, we may have, it's interesting for the fact, by the way, that in part that Bob Lazar also brought up this point, that you might just have different species who have just different advantages in terms of the science that they're predisposed to learning. So let's say that there does exist, super heavy elements that exist in abundant resources and sources, in abundant amounts, and they do have some sort of, gravity manipulation type capabilities, and they exist naturally on other planets, then sure, those beings, those intellectual beings, will have an intuition for gravity-based physics that is way superior to ours, right? But then, flip side, they may not have the same understanding of, let's say, general relativity, although I sincerely doubt that, however, at the same time, because the second that you're dealing with anything that's disturbing or manipulating space-time, you would have had to have run into relativistic equations, like especially if you have these magical materials that are generating gravitational waves and stuff like that.
Well, you would have to, you've got to evolve as a species. They've got to, they have to have gone through everything that we have gone through here.
Almost definitely. I tend to believe that. And that does go back to the structural realism thing for sure, and whether the laws of the universe are the same and all that jazz. But yeah.
Yeah, and I always safely assume a couple of things. One, any intelligent species out there that's advanced beyond us did everything above water. In other words, you can't, like Europa, where you would have developed as a species underwater, well, you can only take technology so far without fire or heat. So how much are you going to evolve? You may have a brain, but you're not going to be able to develop a cell phone and a car and a highway system without fire. So you have to assume that any ET species out there did it above ground. And I know it sounds crazy, but that's the way my brain works, and it has to be that way. I don't think an octopus would have developed beyond where it is now, even though it's smarter than we are.
I don't disagree with that at all, at least for now, right? And so I think that, underwater is very hard to do, like, very good physics. There are precedents, right? Like, isn't there? There is a specific kind of shrimp. I don't want to butcher the name, so I'm not even trying to guess.
Right.
There's like times like a kind of shrimp that can like snap his tail, if I recall correctly, right? And it's at the speed of sound, which is very fascinating. There's also the mantis shrimp, which is super cool. The mantis shrimp is able to see much farther outside of the visible spectrum than we can. It can see it can see infrared. It's super cool, especially for the fact that it has distributed computing, right? So basically, our brains and the way that we see things, we process it in a centralized compute manner, where our brain is doing much of the processing, right? Much of the visual image recognition and whatnot. Whereas a lot of the image recognition computations will happen at the actual eyes and cellular level of the mantis shrimp, as opposed to having a centralized brain for the visual processing. It's like decentralized across its eyes. Super cool stuff.
Yeah,
So
that's fascinating. And the house fly, the fly, right? Trip on this. The fly, the reason why you cannot swat a fly is because they run in a world that is 600 times slower than ours. We are in slow motion. They see the SWAT coming, which for them it's like an hour, right? and they just mosey on off. They are running in a different time than we are. That's a trippy thing to think about. Let's take a break right here. Our guest tonight is Deep Prasad. We're going to continue this conversation about how to apply modern science and physics to the known and unknown data when it comes to UFO research. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us.
here. We listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
Including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. Gavin just posted a picture in Twitter of a fly swatter saying, explain this then, Jimmy. That works about 10% of the time. How many times do you have to swing that thing? You're not 100%. Oh, no. All right, Deep Prasad is our guest, and we're discussing how to apply modern science and physics to the known and unknown data about UAPs, UFOs, ET. And that's actually a direct question and where we need to go to next, Deep, which is explain the process. How do you apply the data, known and unknown, from ET, UFO sighting, whatever that data may be? How do you apply that into research and move forward? How is that done?
Sure. So it's a great question, Jimmy. There's, I think, two things that need to be done. One is, of course, the actual mass gathering and congregation of data and applying understood and well-known machine learning and statistical analysis methods, such as neural networks and even like logistic regression and natural language processing, and apply the known techniques that we have to the literature, like to all the historical texts, to anything that we think is related to the phenomenon, and see what patterns can they come up with. That's one thing that needs to be done, right? And then there's the other thing, which is a fundamental change and sort of advancement in our ability to do artificial intelligence. So right now, our artificial intelligence is really good at mostly narrow intelligence tasks. So what I mean by narrow intelligence is that it's a task that doesn't require a lot of outside knowledge and on the fly sort of thinking to accomplish. So parking a car, right, requires narrow intelligence. Uh, um, Talking about the philosophy of life and metaphysics is not narrow intelligence. So we are still at the narrow intelligence phase. And so when we want to apply AI methods to, let's say, parsing the data, all of the UFO data that we have out there, right, the experiencer data, and trying to find meta patterns in there and seeing are there sort of these sort of reasoning, these abstract logical patterns to be found. We may be able to find them through the abstract abilities and learning capabilities of today's infrastructure, which is something that we barely scratch the surface of, right? Like using machine learning to look through UFO data. Like some people have started doing it, but very few tangible results out there so far. But yeah, so you have that, and then you really just need this advanced. Imagine if you had a sort of quantum enhanced reasoning engine instead that was able to understand and find more abstract patterns, semantically speaking and culturally speaking and intellectually speaking, than the average sort of machine learning analysis approach that we use today. There should be such approaches. We just need to find them.
Well, okay. But then there is the practical stuff. Is there an application today where, and I'm speaking actually in a literal sense too as well, is there an application today where you could take the color of a known that was seen? Certainly that signature would say something. You would have a position, right? You would have that. You would have a location. You would have maybe an A and B location where it was seen at 2 points in the sky traveling. You have the disappearance or the appearance. That's another variable. You have a height, right? You have so you could develop certain things from that. Can that be currently used today to start understanding the physics?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely it can. So what you just described is basically the basis of the training set, right? Now, we don't know for what we would want to use that as a training set of, you would think, but actually, like it's not the case anymore. Like, let's say 50 years ago, somebody might have said, I don't know what to do with this data, right? Even 20 years ago, somebody could have said that. But now we know that with the advent and access to high performance compute power, right, having GPUs, having access to very powerful machines to train our neural networks, what you could start doing is at least making predictions on what positions, where the next sightings will be, who the next experiencer might be, right? That is something that I think it might sound crazy, but it is something we might just be able to do today. I wouldn't doubt it. If given the right data, we may be actually able to, not only just figure out, let's say, common times to expect to see the phenomena or how it may express itself, but we may actually be able to reverse engineer the human selection process that's being sort of undergone right now or undergoing at the moment. So yeah, underway. Does that make sense?
Well, it does. And it seems to me that there should be, and I hope this is exactly what you're working on, where you would be able to open up a program and you have a sighting, right, with friends, whatever, and you are able to plug in blah, 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 everything that you know, right? Everything that you know from that sighting and get that in, and maybe video and upload that too as well. But then have that data spit out some answers and be able to analyze things really, really quickly and give a scientific response to it. Because if you have those basic things in physics, right, you need an object, you need mass, you need location, those basic things that can go into start the process. And that's what we need today. We need that kind of application out there for anybody to be able to not. It's one thing to report a sighting, but nothing is done with that data. Take it scientifically to the next step, Deep.
Jimmy, you can count on it. That's all I'll say.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, I think we are right there. There are so many statements that are made by physicists today, which I find very, very interesting. If we can scientifically analyze the atmosphere of a planet, 1,000 light years away, 1,000,000 light years away, and scientifically go, okay, this is the composition of that atmosphere, and we can't even see that planet, but we are able to identify, get those key identifiers to its atmosphere, then why can't we apply that same logic to sightings that we can identify here on our home planet? I would think that the same applications apply.
Absolutely. They certainly do. For example, spectroscopy, right? So we use a different spectroscopy to determine whether there was phosphine or not in the atmosphere of Venus, compared to the spectroscopy that we would use, for example, inductively coupled plasma spectroscopy that we would use to determine if debris of UAP is actually extraterrestrial or not. But in both cases, we are trying to understand sort of the chemical composition or reverse engineer the composition of whatever it is that we're looking at. And that is something that is right, up our alley at ReactiveQ, for example. One of my personal hopes for this company is that we'll provide the technology that will feed into these AI engines that can help us sort of understand the physics and the materials that are being used by UAPs, and what you're observing. We want to be able to shed some more light onto it.
There are, I'm not going to name names, but there are a few physicists out there right now that say that they understand the physics behind the Tic Tac just from the descriptions from the pilots, right? And the very simple radar data. There isn't complicated radar data. There's only very simple. There isn't any radar data that shows this thing traveling 60,000 feet in a second. That data isn't there. They have the data at the top, data at the bottom, and then they're filling in the blanks. But that being said, have you looked at some of this research, and can we trust some of this research that has been put out there?
I have looked at the research. I've done my very best to actually work through the math, right? Not just like give everybody, whoever, there aren't that many of them out there, right, in the UFO community with their own theories, and I've given all of them, their own shot. And I think for what it's worth, nobody is even close, not even remotely close. And I know that that's gonna, hurt a lot of egos, but the simple truth is obvious. The proof is in the pudding. If people had cracked, the physics of the Tic Tac, we would have even been able to tell, experimentally. And if we could not tell experimentally, at least the physics should have been consistent, and the math should have been logically consistent and complete. And that just has not been the case, right? Like, nobody has proved, because like they would win, they would be in the contender contending, at least, for winning a Nobel Prize. If somebody, for example, could find a more accurate theory of physics, just a better, more accurate model of physics that can describe the tic tac, that naturally, does it. Or if anybody could figure out how to use today's physics to do it, the point though is that nobody has cracked it. And a physicist who is right, for what it's worth, will eventually be known, for being right. Like, I know it sounds really stupid and obvious to say,
right?
But like the entire community didn't keep calling Einstein a crackpot forever, right? They realized he was onto something pretty damn quickly. It took a while, like, for the big older guys to kind of like accept his stuff, right? Because their positions were threatened. But the rest of the world, the other physicists, engineers, and stuff, they're like, oh crap, this math is just better. It's more accurate. And these physicists who have claimed to have cracked the tic tac have produced no such thing and not come close. That's my read on it.
Well, and could you and have you looked at the observational data and what little measurements we do have, by the way, of the tic tac and tried to make the math work? Have you done the same thing?
I have, Jimmy, and I tried to do it in a way that wasn't sort of sneaky and speculative. For example, I didn't try to say, let's assume we can build a warp drive, right? Let's assume that we only have access to the kinds of combustion engines and the technologies that we more or less have today, and maybe advanced it a little bit, right? 50 years, whatever. But fundamental physics perspective, let's assume there is no better physics that we ourselves can deal with.
Right.
And my most conservative calculation that I found was that in order to achieve the same velocity as the tic tac, we would need at least 6,000 SpaceX Falcon 9 rockets, combined into one. And that's just never going to happen. And so I realized pretty quickly that using our physics, our quantum mechanics, and general relativity, and what we know, and what is possible based on that physics and technologies, I couldn't make it work. I could not, and that's just why, that's why I believe the Lockheed Martins of the world and all these billion-dollar tech and aerospace companies are still, moving around in gas-powered rockets and planes and vehicles. It's because humans just have yet to dominate UAP science.
So what does that suggest to you? Does that suggest that we kind of got two ways to go then? One, this was E.T. visiting planet Earth with technology that we purely don't understand. Or B, it was not what they think they saw, and their eyewitness accounts are not accurate. I'm not suggesting that they're lying. What I'm saying is what they have described is not what was reality.
Like the trickster phenomenon, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it could be that too as well. I mean, look, you have 10 witnesses to a car accident. You got 10 different versions of what actually happened.
Well, we're seeing that for what it's worth, right? Going back to the connection between quantum physics and UAPs, here's another one that's abstract. There's the Wigner's friend paradox experiment. It's a quantum physics experiment that basically looks at whether or not it's exploiting a paradox that Wigner came up with based on the wave function. He basically pointed out that each independent observer has their own wave function. Therefore, there should be a point at time where the observers will have conflicting objective facts about an experiment, because their wave function dictates the things that they'll measure, right, at X probability for each measurement. So he said that if you set up an experiment, you will actually observe this paradox if you set it up the right way. And man, lo and behold, a year ago, the paper was published where indeed that is the case. We do see that you can have quantum physics experiments set up where you can have independent observers and they all do the same exact objective experiment. They participate in the exact same thing and they all come out with objectively different answers that conflict, right? They have literal conflicting facts. That should never happen. Like the scientific method hinges on the fact that that doesn't happen. So yeah, so it's really cool. UAPs are like they're literally like the macroscopic version of that phenomenon in some sense.
So as you have looked at the data, what conclusion? I'm not talking about the videos. I'm just talking about because the videos don't represent what was actually seen. But yeah, but when you listen to the testimony and the eyewitness accounts, what conclusions have you come to? Do you think that the Tic Tac was extraterrestrial, or do you think it's something else?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've concluded that I think we live in a very diverse fauna of life. I don't think. I think for what it's worth, it does not matter whether there's one intelligence or multiple, because we ourselves don't have the science to discern one way or another. We have to assume, we have to take it by case basis. That's my own personal opinion on it. Knowing though full well, eyes wide open, that it could be one intelligence. That being said, when you look at all the witness reports and the testimonies and whatnot, you realize that there's sort of a level of abstraction that is happening, like a level of, you know how, have you ever had such an abstract thought that you wish you could just like convey it to somebody else, but you know you never will?
I did it today at Subway when I ordered sandwiches.
That's awesome. There you go.
Yeah.
So imagine those thoughts. Now imagine a species who are capable of comprehending those thoughts and reading it completely fine, right? It's like a language to them. The art of the unknown, all these things that are just out of reach and abstract and immaterial to us. It feels like we're dealing with intelligences that easily have software or math or science or the intelligence to easily manage that kind of abstract information, and then therefore express themselves accordingly, like in our culture or to us individually based on that. So I think when it comes to the Tic Tac, though, however, there is a class of physical, seemingly UAPs that are reported over and over again that make me believe that they could very well just be what they are, right? A spade, call a spade, that kind of deal. But I think, though, that the ones where there are very, some of these interactions where there's humans reporting a being involved in stuff, I really wonder about that. I don't know if that's alien. And I don't even know if we have any word that's accurate enough to describe it. I don't think interdimensional, for example, it's a good enough word. We just need to come up with new vocabulary is the problem, man. I think that we're dealing with things that are just not easily clear-cut, black and white, alien, not alien, ultra-terrestrial, not ultra-terrestrial.
But what do you think? I understand the clarification, but what do you think?
You're so funny, Jimmy. Okay.
Don't be a politician. I'm asking you a direct question. E.T., not of this earth, or terrestrial? No gray area.
I think it's obviously extraterrestrial, or at the very least, not of human origin, not of terrestrial.
See, that wasn't so hard, Deep.
You're so funny.
That wasn't so hard. I don't know. I don't know. I have seen too many things that I can't explain. I'm not an eyewitness to this. I can only listen to everybody else. Right. I just don't know. What I find the one thing when we look at variables, right, we're trying to measure. One of the things we can measure with this is that both of these cases involve the U.S. Navy battle groups on each coast. Now, that is something when we plug in the data, we have to seriously consider why. Why? Because the Tic Tac wasn't seen over Los Angeles for the general public, right? It wasn't seen over San Francisco, Seattle, Kansas City, Chicago. We're talking about two carrier battle groups, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. That is a variable that we have to seriously consider and ask why. Now, is ET just messing with our military at that exact moment? That's another definition of irony, isn't it? Right? So you have that.
Survivorship bias.
Right,
So-
right. Yes,
Right.
total bias. Total bias. So, what do we do with that? Or is it beyond coincidence and we have to just maybe deduce to something much more simple in that maybe it is terrestrial. Maybe it is the Soviet Union or the Chinese or India messing with our Navy and testing systems. Or it's our Air Force and it's Lockheed testing systems. Is that more simple? I don't know. And only time will tell.
Only time will tell. I wholly agree with that. We're very much in the twilight zone when it comes to the confirmation of ET life. Everything is in the gray zone, right? Of plausible deniability. Like we're literally like one alien body, away from cracking this case wide open.
That's right.
But I've also realized, I think we all have, that it's not going to be that easy. Like disclosure is not going to be, clean cut like that. Should it happen, like as a process, this is clearly weirder than all of that.
Yeah, it is. It is. Let's take a break right here. We need to get this in. Our guest tonight, Deep Prasad. We are discussing applying modern science and physics to the known and unknown data when it comes to UFOs and extraterrestrial intelligence. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal God, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to GetTheT.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's GetTheT.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend. Let's face it, you've always wanted to do a sky watch and see your first UFO. Today, it's easy. Just get your own HP7 3B Cobalt Jimmy Church Edition night vision goggles from Hoffman's Optics. This is the same U.S. military system that I use, featuring a Generation 3 blue phosphor image tube. That's right, it's blue, not black and green. This is the only blue system in the world, and it's waterproof, lightweight, combat-proof, proven, simple to use, and ready to go. Hoffman's Optics help create night vision sky watches, and now you can see what everyone has been talking about each night from your own backyard. Just call 760-231-9929. That's 760-231-9929. You can click on the banners on our site or visit UFOnightvisiongoggles.com. That's UFOnightvisiongoggles.com. Go back, Lee Tepe.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRAradio.com.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, the planets. Tonight, Deep Prasad is here. Tomorrow night, Jay Widener. We're going to be talking about the life and times of Terrence McKenna. Wednesday night, Carolyn Ford and Crystal Skulls. But tonight, it's Deep Prasad and Deep Science. Now, okay, Deep, this last segment, I want to talk about some fundamental things. And that is, the first thing is this. Is it easy to find other physicists and quantum physicists out there that are on this side of the UFO question, that we are being visited, instead of applying the laws of physics saying, they are just too far away, it's impossible? Is it easier today to get those conversations started?
With other physicists? So, like, it depends on whether you count as you starting the conversation or not. So here's what I mean. I had one. I won't name him, but just yet. But he's a really great guy. Very famous physics influencer. He's a very young person. One of the youngest physics influencers out there. Reached out to me, and we've been friends since, and we've been talking about UAPs and stuff like that.
Who's that? Brian Cox? Is it Brian Cox?
No, I'll tell you privately.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, cool. So, So I've had those super interesting scenarios, but more often than not, it's only been when I've brought it up has the conversation led to, the possibility of UAPs representing ETs? Like that kind of like conversation does happen more often than you may think in these, like, let's say, circles. Like when I bring it up with I am always surprised when I bring it up with any random person, in the quantum physics or quantum computing community that, let's say, collaborate with, or that I just talk to or work with. Like, I just don't get, judgment or fear. And many times when people actually learn about the data and what the Tic Tac, assuming that it's, not a big hoax or something, right? When a lot of physicists, they hear about it being real, they're like, holy shit, that sounds like aliens. And so what if, you get a physicist to the point where they can at least admit, these top guys admit that these UAPs can even exist in the first place. At that point, very few people I've seen in my experience, very few physicists have tried to claim that, oh, that's government technology, or that's XYZ explanations. Like, if they believe and trust the military and whatnot, they will often conclude that, crap, that's just not human science. Like, that just sounds like aliens, and that just needs to be investigated further. That kind of thing.
Well, most physicists, and when I say most, 100%, right? They stay within the lines. And one of those lines that nobody is willing to cross is the speed of light. All right, that's it. Yep. Right there. If we are talking about faster than light travel physically, the answer is no. It's an impossibility. That part of it is the line that nobody is willing to cross yet. But when I say that, I think you're in agreement, right?
I am in complete agreement with you. So that's why I stressed, when you bring up the data about UAPs, will physicists start thinking about UAPs potentially being alien? If you just ask, as physicists, do you think UFOs are aliens, without telling them, giving them any data, and they're just relying on prior knowledge,
right,
they're going to give you the generic answer. Absolutely not, right? The speed of light is the way that it is, and it is way too slow to allow, even if you're traveling at close enough to the speed of light, right? Most, space is just way too large, frankly, that you would just have to be going faster than light to actually, be a viable species. And then they'll tell you, that's just not happening.
It's not happening because Andromeda, everybody needs to understand, Andromeda, our closest galaxy, our closest neighbor, is 2 million light years away.
Yeah.
You need to stop and just, wrap your head around that for a second.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. Even at the speed of light, it's just not fast enough.
No, 2 million light years. So we're looking at Andromeda in our backyard with our telescopes, and a clear night, you can see it with the naked eye, right? Sitting right up there. Beautiful, right? Gorgeous. There it is. You're looking at Andromeda 2 million years ago. You're not looking at Andromeda right now in real time. You're looking at the old version of Andromeda. So let's back this up for a second. Faster than light travel is one thing.
Yeah.
But is folding space, right? Or the true definition of a warp drive, folding space in front of you and putting space in back of you. You're not actually moving. Right? Physically, you're not moving. If you're folding space and removing space that is in front of you, like the movie Dune, right?
Yeah.
And you're folding space, you're only crossing the line. So that's not traveling faster than the speed of light, right? If you, in a linear sense, and you're calculating the distances that would be there,
I see where you're going at. Basically, like, I see your point. Like, you're saying, does that technically doesn't violate the speed of light.
That's right. It doesn't. Right.
Frame of reference, right?
Am I being a doofus here, or is that the way it is?
That's the basis for why people suggest warp drive is possible, is because technically and theoretically, if you can attain the negative energy density, you would be able to in theory travel faster than light while not violating the speed of light in any local frame of reference.
No, you're not increasing your mass. Right. You're not changing your age. And here's the other question. Well, I would think that you're not doing these things. But what happens to your watch? Right? Okay, now let's think about this for a second. You're wearing a watch. You haven't crossed the line yet, right? You haven't gone to Andromeda. But you are traveling to Andromeda. You folded the space. You've closed the gap. It's no longer 2 million light years. In fact, it's only the amount of time is how long it's going to take you to take one step forward. Right? Basically, that's it. But so you take that step forward. You're now in Andromeda. What does your watch say? Has your watch changed, or is your watch the same as it was back on Earth?
So it's a great question, Jimmy. And what I want to tell you, it may not be a sexy answer, is it doesn't matter what we think is the answer. You have to experimentally verify it, right? Like I can tell you right now that if you're not, for example, if you're somehow, folding space-time, and you're somehow bypassing relativistic effects, right?
Right.
That's what's going down there. That seems like what you're implying. Then it kind of like there's almost a violation, right, in the laws of physics internally. Because what happens? Here's my question. So, like, let's look into the warp drive example for a second. We know, what happens, relativistically speaking, when we approach speeds closer to the speed of light, right? Like, we know that, okay, on ship time may pass, it will pass, what feels like months for us, if we were traveling fast enough at the speed of light, may end up being thousands of years, right, back on planet Earth.
Right.
If you left Earth at a really fast speed. And so the question, and so this is why I said it doesn't matter what we think the answer is, the question of what happens when you travel faster than light, no matter how logical you think those answers were, like the models you used to come up with, there's just no way of telling without empirically, doing so. There's no way of doing that. That's why I love warp drive, but that's why I don't think that. I think warp drive is our attempt at trying to find an easy way out and not having to discover new physics to describe faster than light travel, to describe tic-tacs.
Well, I agree with that. But this is where if we stay in the constraints of special and general, right, relativity, if we stay inside of those, which Einstein was pretty damn good with it, right? It has definitely stood the test of time, most of it, no pun intended.
He did, but he also.
But let me finish this though. So if we are in a folding of space-time environment, and I step over, I visit Andromeda, I'm there for a day, and I take a couple of pictures, and then I step back, and now I'm back in Earth's orbit, right? Okay, I'm now back here. By the laws that Einstein presented, if we traveled at the speed of light or faster and did that, Earth would now be coming back 1 million years in the future. But I am guessing that we would violate all of those laws, and we would come back in real time just the day after we left. And that it seems like the universe would burn up, right? It would just melt because we have just broken everything that is supposed to be true.
Right, and we never observe any of that. We never observe paradoxes, time loops, or anything like the simulation breaking. None of that ever happens, which is almost like expected. Like no physics models, no like philosophy of ours takes into account the ability to have, like, for example, time loops and stuff like that to just the idea of just the idea of traveling faster than light, like how that affects time. It's just such a truly alien concept, no pun intended.
Well, that's why I keep going back to this. There is tens of thousands of intelligent civilizations here in the Milky Way. Forget about Andromeda. Put Andromeda, they're not even at the ballpark right now. Let's just stay inside the Milky Way. They have to exist. It's just a numbers game. That's it. It's just a numbers game. They exist. But the Milky Way is bigger than most people think and to understand. Space is big. The Milky Way is friggin' huge.
Yeah, over 100 billion stars.
And not only, well, it's closer to 1 trillion, but 80 billion Earth-like planets. Okay, so anyway, to get here, it has to be easy. It's not difficult. And the same concept is, and it's very simple, to drive to New York. For you to drive from Toronto to LA, all you have to do is make up your mind. It's not difficult to do. It's just a decision to make. Do I drive to LA or not? Do I take 4 days to drive to LA or not? Do I stay in a few motels? Do I drink a bunch of Mountain Dew and make it in one crack? It's up to me. It's a decision. It has to be the same thing when it comes to interstellar travel. It's simple. It's just a decision, Deep. It's just, do we go here or do we go here? You know what? Let's go here. All right, let's go to Vegas instead of Seattle. All right, whatever the decision is, it's just a decision, and it has to be simple. It may violate everything that we know today, but for them, it's simple because your drive from Toronto to LA in 4 days, have somebody imagine that in the year 1800. They couldn't grasp that.
Definitely not. Right. You're absolutely right. I hope that and maybe frankly it could very well be the case that, like, the technology, once you have the technology, then it is as simple as, do we go to Earth or do we go to planet Zorgon instead?
Right.
For lunch.
Right. And Zorgon's got a great nightlife, so maybe they would go there. But let me ask you this concept, because a lot of this has been laid out there, especially in the last 10 years, with a focus shift on away from the possibility of extraterrestrial, and maybe these visitors are us from the future. Is that getting too far ahead of our skis, or is that a possibility that some of them may be just us?
So it's, maybe not such a strange possibility when you look at the behaviorisms, right? And the humanoid figures, and just sort of thinking, let's say outside of the box for a second. We are obsessed with controlling matter, right? We're really good at that. What we suck at controlling and have literally no control over right now is time, right? That's the last thing that we can manipulate. But it's not so far-fetched to imagine a future where we are so obsessed with matter that we figure it out, right? We are, and in fact, like, give quantum computing maybe about 100 years max, we, honest to God, will have done it. We will have probably have had a very, very deep understanding of matter, or at least control of it, even if we don't know the why behind it, right? The philosophy. So then naturally, eventually, though, what would be left is actual time travel, right? So I don't know. I don't think it's that implausible anymore as it might have been 100 or 200 years ago. But we're constantly seeing these sort of paradoxes that come up and then get resolved. So
With the application of AI combined into the craziness of a functional quantum computer, now we are getting into crazy amounts of research being condensed from thousands of years to just a couple of seconds, because that's actually it will be the result of it.
That's right. That is absolutely right.
Yeah, that's it. So if that's the case, is it going to be a situation where, and again, I don't think this is crazy talk, but is this going to be a situation where we will be able to calculate and speculate the types of alien biology that would be out there and what they physically would consist of, right? 10 fingers, 10 toes, certain amount of height, gravity on that planet, chemicals in the atmosphere, the chemistry, boom, psst, this is what we can expect on this planet. Is that the kind of research that could happen with AI and quantum computing?
100%, yes. And the reason why I say that with so much confidence is because the human body is a series of, chemical reactions. Let's forget the metaphysics for a second. It's a series of cells, and those cells are made of chemical reactions, and those chemical reactions are described by quantum mechanics. All chemical reactions are quantum mechanical in nature, and so therefore they can all be described by a quantum computer and simulated by a quantum computer.
And predicted, right. And,
exactly.
Right.
So that we can just predict, what will life look like? What are even the definitive ways that life can take on? What is the finite set, right? We can start simulating that once we have enough compute, once our quantum computers are powerful enough.
Yeah, we're not there yet, are we? I mean,
no.
Would IBM's Blue Brain or China's Brainaton system, they're not advanced enough yet, right?
So yeah, the IBM Q system, it's none of those are, there's nothing out there. So that's the thing that the quantum computing field is gunning for. It's like it's just like a competition. It's the first, whichever person finds like the first useful application of a quantum computer, like today, that one we can use today, that actually gives an advantage in research, will become, a billionaire. And they'll also, more importantly, though, have established a new way of doing science and engineering. And we all know that it's inevitable. It's going to happen. It's more about it's more about when, not if. Sorry.
And what would be if you had your choice, right?
Yeah.
Somebody came to you and said, "Okay, all right, here we go. What's your first application? Is it to search for exoplanets, life out there in the universe? Is it something more terrestrial? If you had your dream scenario, what's your first application for a quantum computer? And you could do anything you wanted."
That's awesome. What I would do, the first thing I would do, Jimmy, is I would run through every single biological simulation I could come up with, automated, right? I would get one simulation agent to do it for me, like an AI, and then see and just wait and watch until life comes out of that simulation. And then I would know exactly what chemicals and what chemical reactions and pathways are required to create life.
Me, I'm running lottery numbers.
We all are in some ways.
Oh, yeah. And see, I think that we are getting so close. This is what I find probably most interesting and fascinating about where science is today. That if you're an astronomer, if you're a physicist, if you're a scientist, you are focused on one thing. Are we alone or not? It seems like everybody wants to get to to get to that, and they're chasing it down. But we are doing it with hypotheticals, right? Everything is a hypothetical. We're able to get numbers on exoplanets, and we're able to guess, but it's all theory. It's all hypotheticals. It's all guesswork. And that's where things are pressing forward. And if we just had the ability to take things to the next step where we can get absolute results and measurements, I think that's where the focus is going to go. I think we're going to continue to look to the stars, and I'm sure that ET is doing the same thing, looking for us.
That's so true. That's beautifully said.
Thank you so much. So what's next up, man? What are you guys working on now?
So, so we're working on, I'll be very broad just because we're being somewhat quiet about it, but we're working on, I'll tell you right now, it is going to be probably the most advanced quantum condensed matter physics simulation ever done. And so condensed matter physics is a subset of theoretical physics and just physics in general that applies to condensed matter systems such as superconductors and semiconductors and stuff like that. So yeah, we're really just looking into being able to use the most powerful quantum compute platforms that we can get our hands on and prove what can and can't be done with quantum computers and with respect to, discovering materials that we think might take centuries to discover otherwise. We just want to show over the next 12 months, and we'll be public about it. We'll have public press releases and stuff. We want to show that the science exists, that this stuff is there, and that we're going to be at the forefront of it, and that we are. So yeah, keep an eye out for that.
Pretty exciting stuff, man. Pretty exciting. And I look forward to hanging out with you at some point, breaking some bread once we get behind all of this quarantine and lockdown. But hopefully 2021 is going to be a whole nother brand new, fresh year. Thank you so much, Deep.
Thank you so much as well, Jimmy. Have a great night, buddy.
Yeah, you too. Enjoy your night, and thank you so much. Great conversation. And for everybody out there, Deep is Deep Neuron right there on Twitter. You can go and chase him down and follow him on Twitter. And, of course, his website is ReactiveQ, and the links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. And when I come back, thank you so much, Deep. When I come back, I'm going to take your phone calls. 747-228-2051. Open lines are next. This is Fade to Black. Stay with me.
And you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at jimmychurchradio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Tepe.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. forbiddenknowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mystery, fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to forbiddenknowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, forbiddenknowledge.tv. Again, visit forbiddenknowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Don't worry, I'm here. I'm back. I sat down. That's right. Thank you to Deep Prasad. Absolutely fascinating conversation. And I have opened up the phone lines. 747-228-2051. Lots of 747-228-2051. And I've got one segment left. And I do want to hear from you because there were a few very interesting concepts here. Many were presented tonight. But one of the things, now let's stay on this. Also, the movie, The Social Dilemma, that I mentioned in the opening of the show. I want to know if you've seen it yet. And if you have, I would like your comments on that too as well. I don't want to let that go. We will certainly be discussing it this Thursday on Fader Night. Going back to the conversation with Deep, this is what I want to hear from you. When I lay out a couple of ideas, listen, when we are talking about general and special relativity, and we're talking about the way Einstein laid it out, and those basic constraints that have been laid out there, specifically the elegant equation E equals MC squared, that right, you need to stop right there, right? And most physicists do. Because when you are talking about, if you just stay within that, the speed of light is constant, that's it. If the speed of light is constant and that's where we sit, then the traveling, because space is big. The distance between stars is crazy. Forget about the distances between galaxies. Stay between stars and stay inside of our own Milky Way. Those distances are so vast that traveling at the speed of light, at half of the speed of light, which is ripping, then traveling interstellar just takes enormous amounts of time, concepts that we just can't understand. So when we look at Earth and we look at a craft like the Tic Tac, then we got to stop right there and go, okay, if that's extraterrestrial, how did it get here? How did it get here? Right? And if you look at Earth and you look at the closest stars around us that are within 50 light years, and let me stay on this for a second because then we're going to get to the warp drive and folding space. Okay, so here's the Earth. And right around the Earth, you know, the reason why I suggest 50 light years is easy. But you have to understand where I'm going with this. So let me lay it out there for you. Okay, so here's the Earth. 50 light years away. The reason why that is important is Earth has been sending out signals of life with radio and television signals for about 100 years. A little longer, but let's just say 100 years. So, 100 light years out, right? But you would need to get a response back. So that's actually 50 light years. You dig it? 50 light years out, 50 light years back, and there's your 100 years. So we would expect that out of those 200, 250 stars that are about 50 light years, that's it's a big chunk of distance, leaving out Alpha Centauri, by the way. Okay, so we would expect that. A response. Could it be, you know, something like the Tic Tac being a probe sent to Earth to check us out from a civilization that is within 50 light years of Earth? They've got the signals. They sent something here, and it took 50 light years to get here. And boom. That is staying within Einstein's general and special relativity, and of course, E equals mc squared, and the speed of light is constant. That is where we need to stay inside of our laws of physics, the way that we understand them today. That's where, what is the Tic Tac or anything else that we see in the sky, right? And a lot of this stuff has happened since 1947. A lot of things have happened in the last 10 or 20 years. And a lot of stuff, really crazy stuff, has happened within the last 10 years. Tic Tac being 2004. That being said, does that fall within this concept of the Earth being in the middle, 50 light years out, and then something being sent here and arriving? We would expect to start seeing things and hearing things now, today. I wouldn't be surprised if we started getting radio signals on our frequency, because that's what we sent them out at. And would ET have a general sense of our language by that point, right? Because the language is coming out. Have they figured out that puzzle? Is it at a frequency that they can, well, eventually they would hone in, figure out what these signals are, and listen to them and possibly watch them? Yes. Okay. Would they be able to triangulate and figure out where they are coming from? Yes, of course they would. So what are the ages of these stars and the solar system and the planet systems that are around them? Are they far enough advanced in front of us that they would have the capability to turn around and do interstellar travel and get back to Earth? Possibility is there too. So you would have to, and again, I always go back to the math. I always go back to the basics of the basics. What are we within? So I would expect stuff to start happening now. Every year that goes by, it reaches further out. Right? So 150 years from now, right? Now we're 75 light years out from planet Earth. More stars, more possibility. It's a numbers game of reaching out to an advanced civilization. And that is staying within Einstein's special and general relativity. That being said, the other part of this, where it would seem to violate all of our known laws of physics, is the ability to ignore speed of light. So if you are now, and when I say fold space, right? Okay, so let's just say this piece of paper is space. You have point A, right here. That's Earth. And you've got another point over here. And this is 1,000 light years. Too far to travel. But if there is a way to do this and then go through these 2 points like that and fold space where it's not any distance at all. But if this is the case, and that's 1,000 light years, are you still traveling technically at the speed of light if you are connecting the dots like that? That's folding space. This is something that has been talked about a lot in the world of physics and astrophysics and Einstein. The reason why I find that so important is we don't know. Deep just said, we haven't been able to test that. There's no way to know what happens to your watch or time, your age. We don't know these things. What would happen? Right? Okay. That type of travel to go from Andromeda to here and to be able to fold space where, and I keep saying this, I don't want to sound like the movie Dune, but fundamentally that's what you would have to be able to do. With a warp drive, it's the same concept. The warp drive, I'm going to stay basic here, is removing the space that is in front of you and putting it in back of you in real time. Now, it takes a lot of energy and the math, and it doesn't really work out. In our world, it doesn't work. It just, we're talking about the energy of millions of suns. Okay? All right. But E.T. would have figured this out. An advanced civilization, because we are going to figure it out one day, and we're really close. We have the idea for it. We just haven't been able to get to it yet. But with a warp drive, where you are removing space from here, putting it behind your ship, and technically your ship isn't moving. It's not traveling at the speed of light. You're just using energy to remove the space in front of you and put it in back of you. Your ship itself, it's not getting red hot. It's not increasing mass. It's not doing any of those things. There may be a little bubble in front and a bubble in back, and you're removing and displacing space from one position to another. But your ship itself, what happens to your watch? What happens to your age? Did you travel 10,000 light years in the warp drive without spending the time doing it? Well, basically, that's the idea. But if you're going to violate everything that Einstein laid out there for us, what happens to your age? What happens to your family when you get back to planet Earth? Are they still alive? Or did they die 10,000 years prior? Even though you just spent a day traveling in space to go to Andromeda or someplace else. These are the questions that I have. It would answer everything about the tic-tac. It would answer everything about the things that we are seeing in the sky. It seems very basic to me. It has to be simple. The Rocker says, JC, calculate all you desire. What is the frequency, Kenneth? No one will ever have the answer ever. Time does not exist. Ask yourself why. Time does not exist? No, time definitely exists. A replicator, this is coming in from Twitter, a replicator would sure make getting coffee and cocktails a lot easier. Yeah, that's another possibility here. Yeah, I totally get that. Oh, by the way, 747-228-2051. I haven't been paying attention here. Let's get the phone lines active. Okay, 747-228-2051. I've laid it out. I mean, these are the things. It has to be simple. It has to be simple. And I lay out a concept like, how easy it is for you to get your news. How easy is it for you to drive to the store? How easy is it for you to fly to Europe or to go from Europe to the United States? These are just decisions that we make. That's all it is. It's just a decision. It's not complicated. It's a monetary thing. Can you afford to do it? Yeah, okay, let's do it. Boom, done. You wake up a couple hours later in another country, halfway around the world. These things, we're talking about serious science fiction 150, 200 years ago. It no way. Magic, absolute magic. Today, it's a decision. It has to be the same way for E.T. It has to be just that. The ideas of the past for me don't apply when it comes to ET. And when we look at the Fermi paradox, I don't think it applies. And the reason why I don't think it applies anymore, which is, with the amount of stars and the size of the universe and the size of the Milky Way, there's got to be a lot of intelligent life out there. So where are they? Where is everything? We're seeing evidence of that now, number one. And number two, looking for freighters and trade routes and things going in between the stars, it's probably not happening. We are thinking of giant ships and these giant things and leaving evidence and traveling at the speed of light, and we're looking for heat waves and we're looking for things that we understand today. I just don't think it's that way. I don't. We're talking about travel between the stars that happens instantaneous. You're not going to see something. We have to look at it that way. That has to be the way that it is. Let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, this is Matt from Winnipeg. How's it going, buddy?
Hey, Matt, how are you, man? What's on your mind?
Oh, not bad. I was just watching your show, and there's a few things that we could also consider. What if, if you said, you take space and you put it behind you, there is another possibility. What if you're only putting a little bit of space in front of you, behind you, at a time? Rather than taking huge energy leaps from one point to another, what if you did many, many little jumps from point A to point B? So you only moved, say, a foot at a time, but you moved only a foot at a time by putting space behind you. So that way, the less space that you would actually move behind you, then you would consume considerably less energy in order to do so.
And it would take yeah. All of the, okay, I can't wait to hear your next point. And I know you're speaking in metaphor when you say a foot. But yeah, much smaller chunks of space. And that would consume a lot less energy instead of, throwing 2 million light years of space. I don't know how many units that is. But it's a heck of a lot of distance. So breaking that up into chunks like data packets, right? You're doing packet switching in space and going from one section to the next. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like I said, it would have to be simple. I mean, so simple, so fundamentally simple that E.T., just like we look at driving a car. I mean, how simple is that? You get a driver's license when you're 16. Anybody can do it, right? There is nothing stupefyingly difficult with it. It would be difficult to somebody from 1700, though, to wrap their mind around that concept. But it is simple. And space travel, interstellar travel would have to be the exact same thing for them, where it's just easy. It's just a decision.
Right. They're also, like I said, you also had a listener say that time doesn't actually exist. There is actually some debate about that, too. You do realize, we would have to accept that right now in this day and age that we have different multiple environments where we have many different decisions that are made that are yet to be made or have been made, and that your decision process is really each and every one of these steps, and that really the only barrier between these decision processes is actually nothing more than just a small electromagnetic membrane that we kind of puncture from day to day, or from fraction of a second to second.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we look at that with, you know, the D-wave quantum computing stuff. We're starting to look at that through phenomena that we don't really know how to explain yet. And they're coming to a point where we have to accept that maybe this might actually be what is happening. So if you look at it with that point, time and distance are illusions, and they are a measurement of human perception. So how do we perceive space is really nothing more than electrical impulses by our brain. So if we all accept that what we see, what we taste, touch, smell, and feel and hear around us is this electrical nervous system impulse, then we might have to accept the fact that the way we look at time and distance is different to us compared to a more advanced ET. So we might have to accept that time doesn't actually exist when you look at things like entanglement, for instance.
You know where I go against the grain on that, because I get it. I'm totally fascinated with that. You know, the concept of time for ET or an advanced civilization where time for them is non-existent. The past and the future are the same as the now, and they don't look things in a linear fashion as we do, except, and this is where time is real. Time is real when you look at the pulse of an energized quartz. The atomic structure of molecular particles and their pulsing and their rates. These things are a measurement of time, because you can take it one step further. The cells in your body don't replicate forever. As a matter of fact, they split, and then one day they stop, because time is saying they can only do this so many times, and then it's over. That's a measurement of time. And our lives are the same type, and so is a star, and so, you know, and so forth. It just goes on. So no, I definitely think that time is real, and going backwards or forwards, you know, traveling to the future or to the past, that's another thing altogether. But time in a linear sense, because right now, Matt, as you and I are talking, the past just happened. You can't go back to your conversation. Therefore, time is real. You can't go back and repeat what we just did by the second, right? We're always going in one direction. Yeah, we're going into the future. So therefore, I think time is completely measurable and linear down to the atomic level, and the amount that cells in your body, or frog, or a shark, or anything is limited to how many times they replicate and they split, and then one day they stop.
What you described there was entropy. So like you said, when your cells grow and grow and grow, and eventually they die out, and it just kind of stops. Yeah, what you're describing is entropy.
It's a form of it. Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
So what you might have to consider is that, like what you just said there too, when you look at cells and they break down and they die, or when you see a pulse process at a specific rate, and what were the key words here? How you, as the observer, look at these particular phenomena. So when you look at these phenomena, or when you stand there and you observe what is happening with cells or your environment, what are you doing? You are observing human perception, until you start to look at the concepts of an ET, that perhaps they figured out how to look at entropy differently, or manipulate entropy differently in our environment. And like I said, how you are perceiving time is electrical impulses by your brain. Without these electrical impulses, then how do we look at time in a linear sense? We have to accept that time can be observed linearly or non-linearly all in the same moment, if that makes any sense.
No, well, of course it does. And I think that is the case. The perception of time between two individuals, given the situation, is completely different, right? If you and I are sitting in the same room, you're reading a book, and I don't have a book, and we have to sit there for an hour, and then somebody comes in and says, "Okay, how long were you just sitting in here?" And I'm going to go, "Dude, man, it seemed like 3 hours to me." And you say 20 minutes because it flew by. That's it, but it's the same hour, and that thing, as fundamental and as simple of a statement as that is the perception of time. And it's different for everybody at any given moment. Every living thing experiences it differently.
Right. So if everybody experiences time differently, then we have to accept that time itself might be an illusion itself. I'm not saying that time does or doesn't exist in sense, but if we have to look at things like entanglement, for instance, where we can split a particle of light in half, and we can move that particle on one side of, say, 12 feet away from us, and you look at the other particle another 12 feet away from us, and yet they jostle at the same rate without any kind of lag time between that, which I believe MIT has already proved that, then we have to start accepting that time itself it maybe exists in two different forms, linear and nonlinear, and how we observe it is linear. How things actually work is nonlinear.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you're right about that. And the Chinese have done, there's two experiments that have been fantastic. One going out to a star and measuring entanglement, but also the satellites that the Chinese have been entangling with and proven. But when you get to be 80 years old and you're questioning your own mortality at that point and your life lived, you tell me if time is real or not.
Yeah.
And with that, Matt, enjoy the rest of your night, man. We'll see you tomorrow night.
All right, see you tomorrow. Go Backley Tepe, buddy.
Go Backley Tepe. Great phone call. Thank you so much, Matt. And with that, I got to get out of here, and I've got calls on hold. I just didn't get to them. I'll talk to everybody tomorrow night. What a great show. Got to thank Deep Prasad. Fantastic conversation. And I just got to say, what a start to the week. Tomorrow night, Jay Widener. Wednesday night, Carolyn Ford. All right. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Camarion. Show's produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldridge. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2020 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. They cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, right here, Jay Widener. Until then, everybody be safe. Go Backley Tepe.